The jungle was alive with strange sounds. Buzzing insects, low growls, and the hiss of unseen creatures. Tall trees with glowing vines stretched above like a cage, their branches heavy with mist. The human Ethan moved slowly, every step careful on the damp ground. His boots sank in mud, and sweat rolled down his face. He had been lost here for 3 days. His ship had crashed on this alien world, and this jungle was worse than any nightmare. Poisonous plants, giant snakes, and shadows that followed him. In silence, he knew if he relaxed for even a moment, he would not live to see another sunrise. Then, he heard it, a sharp cry, filled with pain. It wasn't the call of an animal. It was a voice, a woman's voice. Ethan froze. His instincts told him to stay away. Voices in this jungle could be traps, lures made by creatures that mimicked humans. But the cry came again, weaker this time. His chest tightened. No, that was real. Someone was suffering. He pushed through the thick vines, his knife cutting them away. And there, in a small clearing under a tree that oozed glowing sap, he saw her. She was not human. The woman lay on the ground, her skin pale silver under the moonlight. Long dark hair stuck to her face with sweat. Her eyes half open glowed faint blue. She wore torn armor, cracked as if she had been running for days. Her legs shook violently, and her hands clutched at her thigh. Ethan's breath caught when he saw the wound. 2 puncture marks. Deep and ugly. Just above her inner thigh. A snake bite. The blood was already black around the wound. He had seen something like this before back on Earth, during survival training. Venom spreads fast. If nothing was done, she would die within minutes. She whimpered, looking at him through half-closed eyes. Hop. Ethan dropped beside her, ripping the strip of cloth from his own shirt. He tied it above the wound to slow the venom. But it wasn't enough. He knew what had to be done. His stomach twisted. The only way to save her was to suck the venom out. His hands trembled as he stared at the wound. The bite was dangerously close to the most private part of her body. He swallowed hard. She was an alien. And a stranger. What if her people misunderstood? What if she woke and thought he had taken advantage? But if he didn't act, she would die here. The jungle growled around them, as if even the shadows were waiting to see his choice. Ethan clenched his jaw. He had survived war. He had faced death. Many times. This was no different. He leaned down slowly, his lips inches away from the wound. He could smell the metallic blood, mixed with the sweet, strange scent of her skin. His heart pounded louder than the buzzing insects. Then her hand grabbed his wrist. Her eyes opened wider, glowing faintly in the dark. What are you doing?" Her voice was weak but sharp, filled with fear. Ethan's voice was low. "Steady, you've been poisoned. It's spreading. If I don't suck the venom out, you won't last the night." She stared at him, her breathing heavy, lips trembling. A tear rolled down her cheek. "That place, no one touches there, not even my own people." Ethan met her gaze. "Then tell me to stop and I'll walk away." "But you'll die." For a long moment, silence filled the jungle. Even the insects seemed to wait. Her grip on his wrist loosened. Her head dropped back onto the dirt. And in a whisper, so soft he almost didn't hear it, she said, "Do it." Ethan's heart thundered in his chest. He pressed his lips to her skin and began. Bitter venom filled his mouth, burning his tongue. He spat it onto the ground, then lowered again, sucking more before spitting it out. Her body tensed under his touch, her breathing uneven. Every second felt like an eternity. Her fingers dug into the dirt, her eyes squeezed shut, a mix of pain and something else flickering across her face. Finally, the blackness around the wound began to fade. Her shaking slowed, her breathing steadied. Ethan sat back, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, chest heaving. "You'll live," he muttered. Her glowing eyes fluttered open, fixing on him. She looked at him not with gratitude, but with something deeper: shock, confusion, maybe even anger. "You touched me," she whispered, voice trembling. "In my world, that means—" Before she could finish, a loud hiss echoed through the clearing. Ethan spun around. The grass shifted, and glowing yellow eyes stared at him from the darkness. Another snake. Bigger. Watching. Waiting. The jungle was not done with them, and neither was fate. The hiss grew louder. Ethan's knife was already in his hand, its blade shining faintly in the moonlight. He pulled the alien woman closer against the tree, shielding her weak body with his own. Her chest rose and fell fast, but her glowing eyes stayed locked on him, as if she could not believe he was standing in front of her. After what he had just done. From the grass, the beast slithered out. This snake was not like the one that bit her. It was larger, thicker than a man's waist, with glowing yellow scales that shifted like fire. Its tongue flicked the air, tasting their fear. Ethan took one step forward. His heart hammered in his chest, but his voice was steady. "Stay behind me." The alien woman coughed weakly, trying to rise. "You cannot fight it alone." "I don't have a choice," he growled. The snake lunged, jaws wide. Ethan rolled to the side, slashing his knife across its skin. The blade cut deep, but the creature barely flinched. Its body coiled, ready to strike again. Ethan breathed hard. His strength was fading after hours of wandering, but he refused to back down. He had fought worse than this: men, machines, wars. A snake, no matter how alien, was just another enemy. The alien woman lifted her trembling hand. Her skin glowed faint blue, and strange symbols burned across her wrist. For a second, Ethan thought she would unleash some kind of power. But her hand dropped, too weak to finish whatever she tried. The snake attacked again. This time, Ethan jumped forward instead of back. He drove the knife into its eye. A scream-like hiss shook the trees as the beast thrashed violently, tail smashing the ground. Ethan pulled the blade free just as the snake collapsed in the dirt, twitching before going still. Silence returned. Ethan's shoulders dropped. He was covered in sweat, his breath sharp. The jungle smelled of blood and burning sap. He turned to the woman. She was watching him with wide eyes, lips parted, as if she had never seen anything like him. "You killed it," she whispered. Ethan wiped the blade on his pants. "And kept you alive. That's twice now." Her eyes softened, but only for a moment. Then she looked away, biting her lip as if ashamed. He crouched beside her, checking the wound. The swelling had slowed, the color almost normal. His quick action had worked. Relief washed over him until her voice broke the silence. "In my world," she whispered, "what you did, it is not just saving life, it is binding." Ethan frowned. "Binding?" Her hand brushed her thigh where his lips had been. She winced. "You touched where no male is allowed. Not unless he is chosen. Not unless he becomes mate." Ethan froze, his throat dry. "Mate?" Her glowing eyes turned back to him, filled with anger and something else he could not name. "You have claimed me, human. My people, if they see us now, they will kill you. Or they will force you to stay." Ethan shook his head. "I didn't claim anyone. I saved you. That's it." But deep down, he knew it wasn't so simple. The way she looked at him, the way her body had reacted under his touch, it wasn't just survival. Something had changed between them. She gripped his arm suddenly, her nails sharp against his skin. "You don't understand. By our law, I cannot refuse you now. You marked me." Her words sank into him like ice. He wanted to argue, but her trembling body in his hands reminded him that this wasn't a game. He had stepped into a world of rules he didn't understand, and now both their lives might pay the price. The jungle howled again in the distance. More predators, more dangers. Ethan sighed. "All right. Then you'll just have to stay alive long enough to explain this to me." He slipped his arm under her and lifted her from the dirt. She gasped, clutching his chest, her face inches from his. Her lips brushed his ear as she whispered, "My name is Lyra." Ethan nodded. "Lyra, you're not dying here." He carried her through the thick vines, his knife ready in his free hand. Every sound made him tense, but her breathing against his neck kept him moving. Hours later, he found shelter in a hollow cave hidden behind a curtain of roots. He laid her gently on the stone floor. She was exhausted, her eyes closing, but she kept staring at him as if afraid he might vanish. "You could have left me," she whispered. "Many would have." Ethan sat against the wall, knife resting. On his knee, "Not my style." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Strange human. The fire he built flickered across the cave walls. Lyra's eyes glowed in the light, soft now, no longer sharp. She watched him in silence until her breathing slowed and sleep claimed her. Ethan sat awake, staring at the flames. His mind replayed her words. Mate, binding, claimed. He shook his head, whispering to himself, "I didn't come here to save someone, or to fall into some alien law." But in the silence of the cave, he knew one thing for certain. The moment his lips touched her skin, his life had changed forever. And outside, hidden in the shadows of the jungle, more glowing eyes were watching. The night passed slowly inside the cave. Ethan didn't sleep. He sat with his knife in hand, eyes sharp on the glowing jungle outside. Strange cries echoed in the distance, sometimes too close. Every time a branch snapped, his hand tightened. Around the hilt, Lyra slept fitfully beside the fire, her silver skin shining faintly in the dim light. More than once she whimpered, her body twitching, as if haunted by dreams. When she stirred, Ethan placed a hand gently on her shoulder until she calmed out. At dawn, the jungle came alive again. The mist rolled in thick, wrapping around the cave entrance. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. For a moment, she looked at him as if she had forgotten everything. Then her gaze fell to her thigh, to the bandage tied there. Her cheeks darkened. "You're still here," she whispered. "Of course I am," Ethan replied. "You'd be dead without me." Her lips trembled, as if she wanted to argue. But instead, she sat up weakly, pressing a hand against her leg. "You don't understand what you did. You tied us. In my people's eyes, there is no turning back now." Ethan frowned. "I told you already. I saved your life. That's it." But Lyra shook her head, hair falling around her face. "No, the venom bond is more than life-saving. When a male draws venom from that place, it is sacred. It means our spirits are bound. Forever." Ethan stared silent. He wanted to laugh it off, to call it nonsense. But the way she said it, her trembling voice, the way her glowing eyes refused to meet his, it carried a weight he couldn't deny. Finally he sighed. "Then forever's gonna have to wait. Because right now, the only thing that matters is surviving this damn jungle." He stood and moved toward the cave entrance. Outside, the mist shifted, and the ground seemed to breathe. He felt the jungle watching, like it wanted to test him again. Lyra struggled to her feet, using the cave wall for balance. "Where are you going?" "To find water," Ethan said. "And food. You won't last long on nothing but smoke from that fire." "I'll go with you. You can barely stand." Her jaw tightened. "Bound, remember? If you walk out there, so do I." For a moment Ethan stared at her, then he shook his head with a dry laugh. "You're more stubborn than any soldier I've met." Together, they stepped out into the jungle. Vines hung heavy, dripping with dew. Strange flowers opened as they passed, releasing clouds of sweet-smelling gas. Ethan covered his mouth with cloth and pulled Lyra close until the mist cleared. Birds with crystal wings screeched above, their reflections scattering in the air like shards of glass. But it was the silence that made him uneasy. Too quiet. The predators were hiding. Watching, they reached a stream not far from the cave. The Water glowed faint blue, filled with tiny swimming lights like fireflies underwater. Ethan knelt, cupping some into his hands, testing the taste. Cool, sweet, safe. Lyra sat on a rock, watching him with unreadable eyes. Finally, she spoke. "Why? Did you really save me?" Ethan looked up, water dripping from his chin. "Because leaving you, there wasn't an option." "That's simple? That's simple." Her lips curved in a bitter smile. "On my world, no male does anything that simple. They always expect something in return. A favor, a body, a life." Ethan's gaze hardened. "I'm not from your world." Silence stretched between them. For the first time, Lyra looked at him differently, not as a stranger, not even as a savior, but as something else. Something she could not name. The moment was broken by a sound, branches cracking behind them. Ethan's knife was in his hand. Instantly, figures stepped out of the mist, tall, armored, their faces hidden by masks of bone. Spears in their hands, glowing symbols across their skin. Lyra froze. Her voice shook. "My people." Ethan tensed. "They don't look friendly. They are not." The warriors formed a circle around them. Their leader pointed his spear at Ethan, speaking in a language that rumbled like thunder. Lyra stepped forward weakly, raising her hands. She shouted something back, desperate. The leader's eyes narrowed. His gaze dropped to her thigh, where Ethan's cloth still covered the bite wound. His body stiffened. A dangerous silence followed. Then he spat a single word. The others hissed. Their spears lowered toward Ethan. Lyra's voice cracked, pleading. But it was useless. The leader gestured sharply, and two warriors grabbed Ethan, tearing the knife from his hand. Ethan struggled, but their strength was overwhelming. The leader snarled another word, pointing at him, then at Lyra. The warriors dragged them both toward the jungle's deeper shadows. Ethan glanced at Lyra, his chest burning with fury. What did he say? Her eyes were wide, filled with fear. He knows what you did. And what does that mean? Ethan demanded. Her voice trembled. It means you are no longer a stranger. To them, you are my mate. And for that, they may kill you. The jungle swallowed their voices as the warriors dragged them into the unknown. The warriors dragged Ethan and Lyra through the jungle until the sun bled red behind the trees. Every step was rough, every pull of their arms tighter than chains. Ethan's wrists burned from the ropes, but his anger burned hotter. He had fought beasts, storms, even death itself. But now, tied like prey, he felt powerless. Lyra stumbled beside him, her face pale, sweat shining on her silver skin. Still, she tried to whisper through clenched teeth. Do not speak. Do not fight. If you resist, they'll kill you before dawn. Ethan gritted his teeth. And if I don't resist? They'll judge us together. Her voice cracked on. That last word. The tribe's camp was hidden deep in the jungle, a ring of glowing stones, fires burning blue instead of orange. Tall huts carved from bone and wood loomed above them. The air was thick with smoke and chanting voices. The warriors shoved Ethan and Lyra into the center. A crowd gathered quickly, their glowing eyes piercing through the night. The leader stepped forward, removing his mask. His face was hard, marked with scars, his teeth sharp like an animal's. He spoke in their harsh tongue. The crowd roared back. Ethan looked at Lyra. Translation would be nice. She swallowed, her hands shaking. He says, I am tainted, that you bound me with the venom bond. To them, it is worse than death. Ethan's jaw tightened. So what now? Her eyes flicked to him, filled with fear. Now, they test us. The leader barked an order. The warriors untied them, but did not give back Ethan's knife. Instead, they pushed the two of them toward a stone hut at the edge of the camp. Lyra's hand brushed against Ethan's as they stumbled forward. He felt her trembling, not just from fear, but from something deeper. She didn't look at him. Inside the hut, the air was heavy with heat. A fire burned low, casting shadows that danced across the walls. Strange symbols were carved into the stone, glowing faintly. The door slammed shut behind them. Ethan turned to Lyra. "What is this?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "The night of heat." He frowned. "Sounds pleasant. It is not." Her hands gripped her arms tightly, as if holding herself together. "The tribe believes if the bond is true, it will survive this night. If it is false, we will die." Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Die how?" Her eyes glowed brighter in the firelight. "The fire will test us. The air will burn. Our bodies will ache until we collapse. Only if our spirits are bound will we endure until morning." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "So they lock us in a sauna and wait to see if we melt. Great." But his joking tone couldn't hide the unease in his chest. He had survived many things, but this wasn't a battle he could fight with fists or knives. Lyra sat on the stone floor, pulling her knees to her chest. Sweat already rolled down her skin. "If you are not strong enough, if you reject the bond, it will kill us both." Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Her face, usually sharp and proud, now looked fragile. She had survived Venom, beasts, and capture, but now she seemed more afraid than ever. He knelt beside her. "Listen, I didn't come here to bind you. I didn't come here to be anyone's mate. But I'm not letting you die. Not tonight. Not ever." Her eyes widened. For a moment, she seemed to believe him. The heat grew heavier. The fire's glow turned the air into liquid. Ethan's shirt clung to his chest, his breath hard and shallow. He leaned back against the wall, sweat dripping down his temples. Lyra swayed, her body trembling. Ethan caught her before she fell, pulling her against him. Her skin was burning hot, her breath ragged. "This fire, it pulls at us," she whispered. "It makes the bond stronger. Or breaks it apart. I feel it inside me, do you?" Ethan swallowed hard. He didn't want to admit it, but she was right. His chest pounded, not just from heat, but from something alive crawling under his skin. A strange pull toward her. He looked into her glowing eyes. They were closer now, her lips parted, her breath brushing his neck. "Ethan," she whispered, "if we give in, we live. If we resist, we burn." Her words hung heavy between them. The fire roared suddenly higher, the heat slamming into them like a wave. Ethan wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close to shield her from the blaze. Her fingers dug into his chest, her forehead pressed against his shoulder. Outside, the tribe's chanting grew louder. The night of heat had begun. Inside, only two hearts fought against the fire, and against themselves. The fire finally dimmed when the first light of dawn touched the stone hut. Ethan's body ached, his throat dry, his shirt clinging to him with sweat. He had survived war zones and burning wrecks, but this night had felt endless, like the heat itself wanted to strip his soul away. And yet he was alive. Lyra lay against him, her head resting on his chest. Her silver skin glowed faintly, her breathing steady. She had endured beside him, her trembling body refusing to break. When the heavy door opened, the tribe stood outside in silence, the leader's scarred face twisted into a scowl. He had expected two corpses. Instead, he found them standing tired, yes, but alive. A wave of whispers ran through the crowd. Some looked at Ethan with awe, others with disgust. Lyra spoke first, her voice weak but sharp. "You see, the bond holds." The leaders snarled and barked something in their tongue. His warriors stepped forward, spears ready. Ethan tensed, instinct urging him to fight, but Lyra raised her hand. "They will not kill you now," she whispered quickly. "The fire proved you are my mate, but they do not accept it. They will test you again." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Test me how?" Before she could answer, the leader shouted. The warriors pushed them through the camp. past the glowing fires, into the jungle once more. The chants of the tribe followed like a storm. Ethan's stomach turned. He had been dragged into trials before military interrogations, enemy ambush, but this was different. This wasn't about truth or war. This was about survival in a world that didn't want him. They marched until the trees opened to a wide clearing. Strange bones littered the ground, massive rib cages rising like walls. The air smelled of death. Ethan's gut tightened. A killing ground. The leader pointed his spear at Ethan, and then at the forest edge. He spoke one word, sharp as steel. Lyra's face went pale. Hunted. Ethan's grip tightened on her arm. What does that mean? She looked into his eyes, fear burning in her glowing gaze. They release us. They chase. If we live until nightfall, we are free. If we fail, they take your head and my heart. The warriors cut the ropes binding their wrists. Ethan rubbed his raw skin, his eyes never leaving the masked faces around them. Every spear glowed faint blue, every warrior eager for blood. Great. Ethan muttered, I've been dropped into a death game. A horn sounded. The warriors stepped back. The hunt had begun. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. Run! They tore into the jungle, vines snapping against their skin. The ground was uneven, roots twisting like traps. Behind them, the sound of spears striking the earth echoed closer. The hunters didn't rush. They enjoyed this. Like wolves. They wanted to wear their prey down. Lyra's breath came fast, her legs still weak from the bite. Ethan pulled her along, forcing his own body to move faster. Keep going, he shouted. I can't, she gasped. Double quotes, yes, you can. I'm not letting them have you. They crashed through a patch of glowing flowers, their petals releasing clouds of glittering spores. Ethan wrapped his arm over his face, dragging Lyra through. The spores clung to their skin, making them glow in the dark. Easy targets. Behind them, the hunters' chants grew louder. Ethan cursed. They're marking us. They stumbled into a ravine, sharp rocks jutting from the sides. A narrow stream trickled below. Ethan scanned quickly, no easy escape. But a fallen tree stretched across like a bridge. He pushed Lyra forward. Go. Don't look down. Her legs shook, but she moved. The tree creaked under their weight. Halfway across, a spear flew past, missing by inches. Lyra screamed, clutching Ethan's shirt. The hunters were closing. Ethan yanked the spear from the tree and shoved it into Lyra's hands. Hold it, you'll need it. She stared at him, trembling. I've never. Then start now, he snapped. They reached the other side just as another spear whistled past. Ethan grabbed Lyra and dove behind a rock. His heart pounded, breath burning in his chest. The hunters spread out, moving like shadows. Their glowing eyes pierced through the jungle mist. Ethan pressed his back against the rock, knife ready. He glanced at Lyra. Her hands shook around the spear, but her jaw was set. You still with me? He whispered. She nodded, though fear shone in her eyes. Bound, remember? Where you go, I follow. Ethan almost smiled despite the danger. Then let's make them regret binding us. The sound of footsteps grew closer. The hunt was no longer a chase. It was about to become a fight. Asterisk. The jungle mist wrapped around them like a shroud. Ethan's knife gleamed faintly, and Lyra's trembling hands clutched the stolen spear. Every breath was loud in the silence, every heartbeat a drum in his chest. The hunters spread in a circle. Their glowing eyes appeared and vanished between the trees, moving like ghosts. Spears tapped against shields, a rhythm that grew faster, hungrier. Ethan crouched low, whispering to Lyra, "Stay behind me." No matter what, her jaw tightened. I am not helpless. He glanced at her, even with fear in her glowing eyes. There was fire, too. The venom bond, whatever it meant, had awakened something inside her. She wasn't just following now. She was choosing to stand beside him. The first warrior lunged from the mist. Ethan ducked, slashing upward. The knife cut across the warrior's chest, sparks flying as steel met armor. Lyra cried out and thrust the spear clumsily, catching the attacker in the side. The warrior stumbled, and Ethan finished him with a sharp strike. The jungle howled. With the cheers of the others, more came. Ethan fought with quick, brutal moves, but they were too many. For every strike he landed, 2 more warriors pressed closer. Lyra stood at his back, thrusting wildly, each attack more certain than the last. Her glowing skin lit the mist, her breaths sharp, determined. For a moment, Ethan almost forgot she was the same trembling woman he had carried from the cave. But the hunters were driving them where they wanted, step by step. Ethan realized they were being herded, pushed into the ruins of a stone circle hidden deep in the jungle. Ancient carvings glowed faintly on broken pillars. The air here was heavy, thick with something older than the tribe itself. The hunters suddenly stopped. Their leader stepped forward, scarred face lit by fire. He raised his hands, speaking in that deep, thunderous tongue. Lyra's eyes widened. "No, not here." Ethan's chest heaved. "What's he saying?" Her lips trembled. "The hunt is done. Now comes the true trial." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "We just survived their death game. What more do they want?" Lyra swallowed. "Hard. Not death, proof. They will not accept our bond unless they see it, unless they feel it." The leader barked another command. The warriors struck their spears into the earth, chanting louder, the sound echoing through the ruins. Fire sprang up around the circle, walls of flame trapping Ethan and Lyra inside. Ethan turned to her. "Explain, now." Her glowing eyes locked on his, desperation breaking through her pride. "They want desire. They want us to show that we are truly bound, not by accident, not by survival, by choice." Ethan's stomach clenched. "You mean, they want us to?" "Yes," she whispered, shame and heat mixing in her voice. "Before all of them. If we refuse, they kill you. If we fail, they kill me." Ethan ran a hand through his sweat-soaked hair, the fire reflecting in his eyes. He had fought battles, stared death in the face, but this was something else. His survival didn't depend on strength. It depended on surrender. The tribe's chanting grew louder. The fire burned hotter. Lyra stood trembling, her silver skin glowing, her breath uneven. She hugged her arms across her chest, as if shielding herself from what was about to happen. "I never asked for this," Ethan muttered. "Nor did I," she whispered back. "But they will not stop. If you walk away, they'll tear us apart." Their eyes met. The bond, the strange pull that had begun with Venom, burned stronger than ever in the firelight. He saw her fear, her shame, and her need. Not just for survival, something deeper, something she could no longer hide. The leader roared again. The warriors banged their spears in rhythm. "Prove it, prove it, prove it." Ethan stepped closer. His voice was low, meant only for her. "If we do this, it's not for them, it's for us. Do you understand?" Her lips parted, trembling. I understand." Slowly, almost unwillingly, she placed her hand against his chest. Her skin burned hot under his shirt, her fingers shaking. Ethan caught her hand, holding it firmly. The chanting rose to a fever pitch. Lyra's glowing eyes locked onto his. Her whisper was almost drowned in the fire's roar. "Kiss me like you mean it, or we die here." Ethan's breath caught. His chest thundered. The fire pressed closer, the tribe's voices deafening, and then he leaned in. The flames roared higher, licking the broken stones like hungry beasts. The tribe's chanting thundered around the circle, every voice demanding proof, every spear pounding the earth in rhythm. Ethan's lips hovered inches from Lyra's. Her glowing eyes stared into his, wide with fear and something more, something she couldn't hide anymore. Her fingers trembled against his chest, but she didn't pull away. The bond burned inside them, hotter than the fire. Then Ethan closed the distance. Their lips met, slow at first, then deeper, until the noise of the tribe blurred into nothing. For that moment, the world was gone. There was only her, the strange taste of her breath, the heat of her skin, the wild pounding of her heart against his dot. The fire around them flared white. The carvings on the stones glowed brighter than the sun. The tribe gasped, some falling to their knees, others roaring in rage. The leader snarled, spitting words like venom. Lyra pulled back, breathless, her lips trembling. He says, "The bond is real. Too real." Now they fear it. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Fear it? Her voice shook. Because you are not one of them. Because if a human combined were no warrior of their own kind could. Their power means nothing. The leader raised his spear, shouting a final command. Warriors surged forward, their eyes blazing with fury. Ethan pulled Lyra behind him, knife flashing in his hand. Figures. Even when you give people what they want, they still try to kill you. The first warrior lunged. Ethan met him head-on, steel tearing through armor. He spun, kicking the body into the flames. Another came. Ethan ducked, slashed, drove his blade through the throat. The circle became chaos, fire, blood, and shadows colliding. Lyra clutched the stolen spear, her arm shaking but steady enough to strike. She drove it through a warrior's leg, crying out as the man fell. The leader himself stepped forward, his scarred face twisted in fury. His spear glowed with ancient fire, brighter than the others. He roared, charging at Ethan. The clash shook the stones. Ethan blocked with his knife, sparks flying, but the leader's strength was monstrous. The spear knocked him to the ground, the knife spinning out of reach. Ethan's chest heaved as the spear pressed toward his throat. The leader snarled, eyes burning. Unworthy, Lyra screamed, rushing forward. She struck with the spear, but the leader backhanded her, sending her sprawling against the stones. Blood trickled from her lip, her glowing eyes dimming. Something inside Ethan snapped. He shoved upward with raw strength, grabbing the leader's arm. His muscles burned, his lungs screamed, but he forced the spear aside. With a roar, he headbutted the scarred warrior, bone cracking under the impact. The leader stumbled, stunned. Ethan snatched the spear from his hands and with one brutal motion, drove it through his chest. The fire roared white again, shaking the ground. The leader gasped, then collapsed lifeless onto the stones. Silence fell. The warriors froze, their spears lowered. The chanting stopped. Every glowing eye turned to Ethan, the human who had just killed their strongest. Ethan stood tall, chest heaving, firelight painting him in shadows. He held the leader's glowing spear, its energy crackling in his grip. He pointed it at the crowd. Enough. You want proof? You've got it. She's alive because of me. She's mine, and I'll burn this jungle to the ground before I let any of you take her. The words rang out like thunder. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, one by one, the warriors lowered their heads. Not in shame. In recognition. Lyra staggered to her feet, her hand pressed to her chest. She looked at him with wide eyes, breathless. You challenged them all, and won. Ethan stepped to her side, placing the glowing spear in her hand. No, we did. Together. Her lips trembled. She stared at him as if seeing him for the first time, not just as a savior, not even as a mate, but as something more. Something unbreakable. The tribe parted, silent, as Ethan guided her out of the burning circle. The jungle itself seemed to bow, the shadows retreating, the fire dying down. When they reached the edge, Lyra whispered, "You could leave now. No one would follow. You have earned your freedom." Ethan stopped, looking back at the tribe still watching, then down at her glowing eyes. "I don't run," he said simply. "Not when someone needs me." Lyra's breath caught. For the first time since the venom bite, her lips curved into a true smile, and though the jungle still whispered danger, Though enemies still lurked beyond the trees, Ethan knew one thing. For certain he hadn't just saved her life. He had chosen it. Her life, their bond, their future.